That day started like any other. The sky was overcast, and the wind whispered through the oak trees in front of the house, carrying a sound that was somehow both familiar and spine-chilling. 8-year-old Emily, with her golden hair, like early spring sunlight, had packed her backpack, thrown on her jacket, and bounded down the stairs like usual. But instead of heading to school, she stopped at the doorway. "Can I stay over at Sarah's tonight, Dad?" Her voice echoed through the quiet kitchen, where Thomas Hargrove was sipping his first cup of coffee. Thomas looked at her, smiled, and nodded. A simple nod, one no one would remember, but it changed his life forever. That evening, Emily didn't come home. The next morning, her bed was still neatly made. The pillow still smelled like fabric softener. But no Emily, no backpack, no shoes, no note. Only a crooked chair at the dining table and a half-finished drawing on the wall hanging slightly askew. Thomas searched the house, calling her name. Then he ran outside. Neighbors hadn't seen anything. Police were called. Within 24 hours, Emily Hargrove was declared missing without a trace. There was no sign of forced entry, no witnesses, nothing, except for a small embroidered handkerchief with an E on it found in the trash behind the house, and bounded down the stairs like usual. But instead of heading to school, she stopped at the doorway. Thomas Hargrove was sentenced to 20 years for second-degree manslaughter, though he never once admitted guilt. Dad, and it would be Adam, 20 years later, who would discover a handwritten note beneath an old bed frame, where Thomas Hargrove was sipping his first cup of coffee. Thomas looked at her, smiled, and nodded. Adam collapsed to the floor. His heart punched through years of silence, sobs bursting loose from the cage he'd built in his chest as a kid. People had laughed at him when he said his father was innocent. They called him the murderer's boy. He dropped out of school, fled the town, lived off-grid, sending scraps of savings just to keep this house from being condemned. And now, those scribbled words, they hit like a wrecking ball through every wall of disbelief. He stood, made his way downstairs, his feet numb, his mind racing. Thomas was rinsing his hands in the old sink, the faucet dripping like always. When he turned, his eyes looked exactly the same, tired, heavy, and strangely clear. Adam said nothing. He just handed him the letter. Thomas took it, read in silence. His rough, calloused hands trembled, not from shock, but like the weight of 20 years was being peeled away one fragile layer at a time. When did she write this? He whispered, eyes distant. I think the night before she disappeared. No more words. They didn't need any. Both knew this wasn't just a child's note. It was the first crack in a concrete wall of assumptions built on weak evidence, fear, and bad luck. Then, like a long-lost echo crawling out from under the floorboards, Adam asked the one question he'd buried his whole life. Dad, did you ever suspect anyone? Someone in our family? Thomas didn't answer right away. He turned and walked toward the old wooden door leading to the basement, the very place the police had found the hammer. But he didn't go down. He just stood by the door, placing his palm on the cold wooden frame. There was one person, he whispered. I never had the guts to say out loud. Adam froze. Who? Thomas turned around. His eyes were no longer clouded. He looked at his son, really looked at him, and said, Your mother's brother. And just then, the doorbell rang. A soft ding-dong that sliced through the afternoon stillness like a bullet. Standing on the other side of that rotting door was the man who had vanished the very night Emily disappeared. The door creaked open with a long, aching groan, like even the hinges were afraid of who was on the other side. He stood there in a long coat, taller than Adam remembered, leaner, with gray in his hair. But those eyes hadn't changed. Cold, hollow, familiar in the worst kind of way. Adam froze. Every childhood memory snapped into place like puzzle pieces soaked in gasoline. Darren, his mother's brother, the man who once spoiled Emily with storybooks and fireflies, the man who promised he'd walk her down the aisle someday, and the man who vanished without a trace the same night Emily did. "Hello, you two," Darren said, voice dry low. "Heard Thomas was out. Figured I'd stop by." Thomas didn't move. Adam stepped between them. "Why are you here?" "Just checking in." "We're still family, aren't we?" "Family." Adam almost laughed. "You disappeared for 20 years. Do you even know what happened?" Darren tilted his head. "I know. But I wasn't involved. I had my reasons. And I never wanted anything bad to happen to Emily." That line, "I never wanted anything bad to happen to Emily," made Thomas stiffen. "What do you know?" he asked. Darren shrugged. "Just some things are better left buried." Adam stepped forward, waving the letter in his hand. "She wanted the truth out. She wrote that." Darren glanced at the letter, and in that instant, he flinched. It was tiny, barely noticeable, but Adam saw it. That blink, that half step back. "You recognize this letter?" Adam said. "No," Darren replied too quickly. I don't know what that is." "You were in her room that night, weren't you?" Adam's voice was sharp now. "You said in your statement you left before dark. The cops never checked that again." Darren swallowed hard. A subtle motion, but not subtle enough. Thomas stepped forward. For the first time in that entire conversation, his voice had weight. Not just sorrow anymore, but steel beneath it. "You lied, and I want to know what you did to her." Darren shook his head, voice low and almost hissing. "I didn't touch her. I swear. But there's something I never told anyone. Because if I did, I wouldn't be safe." Both Thomas and Adam stared at him. "What is it?" Adam demanded. Darren looked around the room, then dropped his voice like a man confessing to ghosts. "I saw Emily talking to someone in the woods. A man, hooded, standing next to a silver camper. He gave her something. When I asked her later, she said, 'He's a friend of Mommy's.' But her mother had been dead for 3 years." The air shifted, heavy, pressurized. Thomas gripped the chair beside him. Adam's fist crushed the letter in his hand. "And you never told anyone?" that Thomas growled. "Why?" Darren whispered. "Because if she left with him, maybe she wasn't hurt. Maybe she was hidden, protected." Adam stared at him, fury simmering. "Protected from what? From who?" Darren met his eyes for the first time, and just once looked like a man drowning. "From this family." And at that very moment, Adam's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text message. Unknown number. Just one line. "If you found the letter, I'm ready to talk. Emily." Adam stared at the screen. The message had no name, no profile picture, no traceable info. Just 2 sentences. "If you found the letter, I'm ready to talk. Emily." Not, "I'm Emily." Not, "I know about Emily." Just Emily. A name dropped like a stone into a still pond, rippling through 20 years of grief, disbelief, and silence. The room went quiet. Thomas whispered, like he didn't believe his own voice. "This can't be." Adam looked at him. Then at Darren, who'd started inching backward like he wanted to disappear again into the shadows of the past. "Who did this?" Adam asked. "Who would know enough to send something like this?" Darren raised his hands. "I don't know. But if someone survived, if she's out there, you need to go to where I last saw her." The woods near the lake. Adam's voice was tight. Darren nodded. Near there. There's an old cabin. Abandoned. No one's been inside for over a decade. Door's been locked from the inside all these years. But if she's anywhere, if anyone's hiding something, it's there. Adam didn't wait. He grabbed his coat, shoved the letter into his pocket, and headed for the door. Thomas started to follow, but stopped halfway. He turned to Darren, his voice low and rough like gravel under pressure. If she's dead, I swear to God, I won't let you live free another day. Then he left. The old cabin sat hidden beneath overgrown pine and moss, like a secret that had been waiting to be found. Adam parked his car just beyond the broken fence, hiked through knee-high grass and cold mud. The sky above was steel gray. Everything around him seemed to hold its breath. Cabin number 3. The number was barely visible, flaking white paint peeling off wood that hadn't seen care in 20 years. The doorknob was rusted, but the door gave with a push. No lock, no trap, just darkness. Inside, the air was thick, damp metallic, something sharp underneath. Adam clicked on his flashlight. It flickered, then cast a weak beam across a small, empty room. Dust coated everything. There was no furniture, except a small wooden table and a mattress in the corner. On the table, a notebook. Open, a pen resting beside it. He stepped closer, hand trembling. Words covered the open page in faint, slightly shaky handwriting. If you found this place, then I know it's time. I'm not Emily anymore, but I still remember the song Dad used to sing before bed. And if you still have the red teddy bear, please bring it. Adam nearly collapsed. That bear, he still had it. He never knew why. He'd moved houses, changed towns, tried to forget everything, but he'd never thrown it away. Torn ear, missing button eye. He kept it in a box, like a promise he could never let go of. And now, he knew it wasn't a promise. It was a signal, a message. He pulled out his phone and texted back the same number. I have the bear. 10 seconds passed. The screen lit up again. Meet me at midnight. Old Dock. Come alone. The wind whipped across the old wooden dock like it was trying to tear the lake open. Adam stood at the far edge, gripping the red teddy bear in his hand. Hood pulled low. Flashlight turned off. It was 11:57 p.m. The dock hadn't been used in years. Its posts were rotten. The roof slumped over, like an old man in grief. This place once belonged to childhood, to memories of floating leaves and whispered dreams. Emily had loved this dock. She used to let paper boats carry her wishes downstream. And now Adam waited for a ghost. Footsteps, soft, deliberate, from the far end of the dock. A figure emerged from the mist, slender, wrapped in a dark coat. Hair lifted by the wind face, hidden in shadow. They stopped several feet away. Then a voice, low, dry, almost afraid to speak, broke the silence. You really kept it. Adam didn't move. He raised the teddy bear just slightly in his hand. Emily. His voice cracked. She didn't answer right away. Stepped forward just enough for the moonlight to catch her face. He froze. Those eyes, same brown, same lashes, same tiny wrinkle in her brow when she was nervous. It was her. Changed. Older. Worn. But her. You're alive, he whispered. She nodded. I survived. But not as Emily. Where did you go? Who took you? What did they do to you? He moved forward. She stepped back. Not here. It's not safe. They still think I'm dead. If they find out I'm not, they'll come. Not just for me, for you. And Dad. Adam's breath trembled. Who you need to tell me? Dad sat in prison for 20 years. He never stopped believing in you. He deserves to know. Tears slipped down her cheeks, silent, steady. But her eyes never left his. I wasn't supposed to remember, but I did. I saw things no kid should. That night, someone came to the house. Not Dad, not Darren, a stranger. He talked to someone at the back door. I hid under the kitchen table. He saw me, and after that, everything went black. I woke up in a locked room. No windows, no voices. They changed my name. Said Dad killed me. That no one wanted me back. But I didn't believe them. I started leaving notes, hiding them. I ran away once, made it back to the old cabin, left clues, prayed someone would find them. I didn't know who, but I hoped you would. Adam couldn't speak. He didn't cry. He just swallowed hard and stepped forward, words catching in his throat. You can come home now. We'll protect you. She shook her head. Not yet. There's one last thing I have to do. I know who he is. I remember his face. But until I find proof, they'll just deny it. Adam raised the bear. Then let me help you. She took a step back into the shadows. Not yet. But keep this. She slid something onto the dock, something small and metal, a key. Then she turned away, voice fading like mist on water. Cabin 7, old pig farm south of town. In the brick wall there's a steel box. Everything you need is there. And just like that, she was gone. Adam stood alone on the dock teddy bear, in one hand, key cold in the other, and a fire in his chest that refused to go out. Because if that place was where it all started, then that's where the truth had to end. The key felt like ice in Adam's pocket as he drove south, headlights barely cutting through the thick fog rolling over the countryside. The pig farm had been abandoned for decades, left to rot after a fire and 1,000 whispered rumors. No one came out here anymore, except maybe thrill-seeking teenagers or people with something to hide. The sun hadn't risen yet. The road ended in gravel and silence. Adam parked just short of a splintered fence, grabbed his flashlight, and moved across the tall grass that clawed at his legs like fingers. Cabin 7. The number had almost completely peeled off the cracked wood siding. The roof sagged, and the place smelled like mold, rust, and something bitter underneath it all. Something chemical. The key slid into the lock, clicked with a soft finality. The door creaked open like a coffin lid. Inside, it was dark. Air thick with dust and time. His flashlight flickered, catching on crumbling furniture, damp floorboards, and one wall bricked in. Brick. In a wooden cabin. Adam stepped closer. That wall didn't belong here. He scanned it, light bouncing off uneven mortar. 2 bricks slightly lighter, not quite aligned. Different texture. He pulled a pry bar from his backpack, a habit from years of being on the move, always prepared. 3 hits. The bricks cracked, collapsed into chunks. Behind them, a hollow space, and inside it, a steel box locked tight with a combination dial. Adam stared. No code. No name. Just that same eerie silence. He stepped back, heart pounding, trying to remember. Her words. Her clues. What had she said? I still remember the song Dad used to sing before bed. He mouthed the old tune, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." He twisted the dial. S-U-N. Click. The box opened. Inside, a cassette tape labeled by hand, 8 p.m., June 14th, 2004. A stack of scanned documents, medical records, psychiatric files, custody forms, all in the name Darren Caldwell. And one photo, a Polaroid. Emily, maybe 9 thin and pale, sitting in a concrete room beside a man with a familiar smile. Darren, he was holding a book, smiling at the camera. And Emily, her eyes stared at the lens, wide, silent. Adam's knees gave out. He dropped the flashlight. The beam spun wildly across the ceiling, casting warped shadows. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. Darren didn't just know what happened. He'd been there. He'd held her. He'd kept her. Adam grabbed the tape, jammed it into the old portable player found inside the box, and pressed play, recording it with his phone just in case. The first voice was Thomas. "You can't do this, Darren. She's all I have left." A loud crash. Something slammed. Then a girl's voice, tiny, frightened. "Stop, Uncle Darren. You're hurting me." Adam's stomach flipped. His hand shook. The tape kept rolling, and the truth finally was no longer silent. The cassette kept playing its wheels, spinning with a dry, grating rhythm. Time had tried to erode it, but the voices were still sharp enough to slice through skin. Thomas spoke first. His voice didn't sound like it did now. Back then, it shook. It cracked. It was a man barely holding himself together. "You can't touch her, Darren." "Stop," I said. "Stop." Then came a laugh. Not loud, not manic. Soft, hollow. "Darren, you're so weak, Thomas. Always were. You think you can protect her from me? You couldn't even protect your wife. She knew. No one believed her. Just like no one will believe Emily." A heavy thud. Something hitting the floor. Then a faint scream. High-pitched, young, not long, not loud, but it cut deep. Adam ripped the tape from the player. He couldn't hear another second. His hands were shaking so violently he nearly dropped it. His pulse thundered in his ears. It wasn't Thomas. His father had tried to stop it. It was Darren. Darren had gone into Emily's room. Darren had planted the blood, the hammer, the whisper of doubt. He knew the system. He knew how to build a story that made people believe the wrong man, and he knew no one listens to a little girl. Adam shoved the tape, the papers, and the Polaroid into his backpack. He didn't go home. He drove straight to the Woodpine Police Department, stormed through the doors with rage and proof clenched in both fists. Only one officer was on duty. A young guy working the overnight shift, probably bored out of his mind. Not for long. Adam dropped the tape on the desk. "Get the chief. Now." "This clears Thomas Hargrove." The officer hesitated. Adam hit play. As the tape rolled, the kid's face changed. Color drained. Posture stiffened. The cassette hissed its way through hell. He nodded. "We'll escalate immediately," he whispered. "No," Adam said. "We escalate now." By sunrise, the cops were at Darren's house. Run down. Isolated. Just outside town. They didn't need a warrant. That tape was a ticking bomb, and everyone knew it. But the door was open. Lights were on, and Darren was gone. On the kitchen table sat a single sheet of paper, scrawled in thick black marker. "You were too slow." Beneath it, taped with yellowing masking tape, was a child's crayon drawing. 2 girls standing beside a lake. One of them holding a red teddy bear. The other staring directly at the viewer with empty eyes. Emily had drawn that when she was 6. It had disappeared the night she did. If the drawing was here, then Emily had been here. Maybe yesterday, maybe this morning. Adam turned to the police chief who had just arrived. "We have to find him. He's on the run, and he's not alone." "What do you mean?" the chief asked. Adam opened his hand. Black dust from the cabin wall still on his palm, Emily said. There was another girl. This isn't just about finding the past, Adam said quietly. This is about stopping it from happening again. The room fell into silence, the kind that suffocates not from lack of sound, but from the weight of everything unsaid. A second girl, the chief repeated, still staring at the drawing. Adam nodded. Emily didn't just leave clues for herself. She mentioned another child someone kept with her, someone who might still be alive. They rushed to process the evidence. The cassette was duplicated. The Polaroid scanned the documents entered into state records. A bolo was issued for Darren Caldwell, armed, dangerous, and potentially traveling with an underage girl whose identity was still unknown. But Adam knew one thing. Emily hadn't run. She'd planted her escape like a gardener who knew exactly when the ground would soften. And now, her story wasn't just hers anymore. Back at Thomas's house, Adam laid out everything on the kitchen table. The red teddy bear, the photo, the tape, and then the drawing. It wasn't just a child's sketch anymore. It was a map. 2 girls. A lake. 1 tree, twisted drawn in dark green crayon, the only part that looked real. It had a scar across the trunk. Adam remembered that tree. He and Emily used to call it the wishing tree. He grabbed a flashlight and ran. The wishing tree stood just outside the old trail near Belmore Road. It had split in half during a lightning storm when they were kids, but it still grew crooked, burned defiant. He circled it once. Nothing. Twice. Then he saw it. A plastic capsule faded blue, wedged deep into a hollow knot. His hands trembled as he pulled it free, twisted it open. Inside, a scrap of cloth and a photo. The cloth bright pink with cartoon stars. A child's pajama sleeve cut clean. The photo. A girl maybe 7. Pale. Brown hair. Standing beside Emily. On the back, written in crooked handwriting. Her name is Mira. She's still here. Please don't leave her behind. Adam dropped to his knees. Emily hadn't just escaped. She'd come back. Left breadcrumbs. Risked everything. Not for revenge. For Mira. He turned to the tree. Whispered out loud, like she could hear him. I won't, I swear. The next day, detectives uncovered an old real estate filing under Darren Caldwell's name. A small cabin, unregistered off-grid, buried deep in the northern forest. Cabin that turned 12. Adam didn't wait. He packed food blankets, a GPS, and headed north. His breath tight, his heartbeat louder than the tires on gravel. The forest was silent when he arrived. Cabin 12 was small, crooked, and silent, but a light was on inside, and when he stepped through the door, what he saw made his heart stop. Mira, a girl small and fragile, sitting cross-legged on the floor beside a broken heater. Her eyes were wide. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She just looked up at him. Her voice no louder than a breeze. Are you the one Emily told me about? Are you the one Emily told me about? Adam dropped to his knees, his heart thudding against his ribs like a drum inside a war zone. Yes, he whispered. My name's Adam. I'm her brother. Mira didn't move. Her voice was fragile, almost rehearsed. She said you'd come. She said you'd bring the bear. He reached into his coat and held it out. The red teddy bear. She smiled barely. She told me that Bear used to sing. You were the one who made it sing. Adam nodded, his throat closing up. I did. When we were kids, tears welled up in her eyes. She said, if someone brought the bear, it meant we were safe. That it was time. Time for what, Mira? She blinked slowly. To tell the truth. All of it. He listened. He let her speak. No rush, no pressure, and what she said next broke him. Mira wasn't Darren's daughter. She wasn't adopted. She was taken from a bus stop 3 towns over almost 10 years ago. She didn't even remember her real last name. Darren had told her Emily was her sister, that they were a family, that the world had hurt them, and only he could protect them. But when Emily started remembering her old life, her real name, she tried to run. That's when Darren locked her in the storm shelter. That's when the beatings started. She never gave up, Mira said softly. Even when she bled, even when she cried. She said you'd come for her one day. And if not for her, then for me. Adam couldn't hold back anymore. He cried. Not like a man, not like a hero. Like a brother. Like a kid who had waited 20 years to hear those words. She saved me, Mira said. But now she's in danger. Adam looked up, eyes wild. Where is she? She said she was going to the river house. She wanted to lure him there. She said she needed to end it where it started. Adam stood. The river house, the old family cabin by the water, where they spent summers, where Emily first learned to swim, where their mother once stood at sunset and said, "This place keeps memories, and now it might take one more." He called the police, sent the GPS pin, told them, "Send everything. She's walking into a trap." Then he turned to Mira. "You're safe now. Do you understand me?" She nodded. "Do you believe me?" She hesitated, then said the one thing that cracked Adam open entirely. Emily said, "You never broke a promise." Zer. As Adam raced toward the river house, his mind was a firestorm. Emily wasn't trying to disappear. She was trying to finish the story. She had come back for Mira. But now, Adam had to come back for her, before Darren found her first. The river house sat like a ghost beside the water, half swallowed by ivy windows, coated with years of pollen and storms. The dock out front had collapsed, but the door still stood, just as it had the night Emily disappeared. Adam arrived, with the first light of dawn police close behind, but he didn't wait. He pushed through the door, and there she was, Emily, standing in the center of the living room, hands raised staring straight at the man she once called Uncle. Darren stood opposite her, wild-eyed, blood on his sleeve, a knife on the floor between them. His lips moved, but his voice cracked. "I gave you everything," he rasped. "You were mine. You were safe." Emily didn't flinch. "You stole me. You stole her. You lied. And now it ends." Adam stepped in. "Don't move." Darren turned, startled, just as the police burst in. He ran 2 steps toward the back door before they tackled him. His scream was nothing human. Not rage. Not regret. Just emptiness. It was over. Emily collapsed into Adam's arms before they even cuffed him. She shook but didn't cry. Her voice was broken but clear. "I didn't come back to punish him," she whispered. "I came back to free us." Later that night, after the statements, the processing, the cold fluorescent interviews, they sat on the porch of the hospital where Mira now slept safely inside. Thomas arrived, slower than Adam remembered, thinner. But his eyes still held that quiet, stubborn light. Emily saw him and froze, not from fear, from weight, from 20 years of silence between a father and the daughter the world said he destroyed. She stood. He stepped closer. Neither spoke. Then she reached into her pocket and handed him a piece of paper. The original letter. The one she'd hidden beneath her bed all those years ago. Thomas took it, unfolded it, with hands that had known grief too long. He read it, and then finally, he wept. Not for pain, for release. "I'm sorry," he said, "for not finding you, for not protecting you, for not being enough." Emily shook her head. You were. You always were. You were the reason I kept hoping. They embraced. No words, no need, just a father and daughter finding each other, not through justice, not through vengeance, but through something far more powerful. Forgiveness. Mira was placed with a new family, one who understood her trauma, who gave her space, love, and time. She asked to keep the red bear. Adam gave it to her with both hands. Emily now speaks at shelters for missing children. She doesn't use her full name. She doesn't chase attention. She just shows them that even in darkness, some lights never die. And that sometimes, when the story should have ended in tragedy, it finds a different path. One written by children, held together by hope, and sealed by a letter left beneath a dusty bed.